Okay, day 136, How to Catch a Spy. Steve Bannon mentioned that he was going to be investigating the Russian ties to Chuck Schumer. And I thought I would send him this video because it relates directly to that. And we're also, so at Steve Bannon is his Twitter handle. And then also let's send to at Franklin Foer. Franklin Foer is the person that wrote that article about the Trump hack of Trump Tower. So, Steve, for you, in the past, we've talked about Hillary's willingness to give weapons like Stinger missiles and sarin gas to ISIS, the Muslim Brotherhood, this group kind of based in Egypt. But what I've been talking about recently is her willingness to give the cyber tools, cyber weapons, to more this Gulen movement. The Gulen movement is more the softer coups, where these are more the overt coups. And this spy network that's kind of started in Pakistan has kind of moved all around the world. So very related to the CIA and then the CIA's infiltration into the FBI through the Counterterrorism Division and Andrew McCabe. So if you didn't see this earlier, it's the article that Franklin Foer wrote, was Trump's server communicating with Russia? And what he produced was some traffic analysis between these two Russian banks, Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, and then also the Spectrum Health. And what I've talked about earlier, although Franklin didn't put out the raw data, I would like him to, because a lot of times when you have a third party here, and this server was only configured to talk to these two entities, the bank and Spectrum Health, this is usually a bridge machine or some machine used for hacking. So looking at the traffic of this yellow traffic here is going to tell the story of usually what happens is there's some hacking activity on the bot that you put on the Trump.com server. And then at night or during the day or whenever during regular business hours, it'll send back some information. You'll make little adjustments and you're basically trying to figure out vulnerabilities within the network. So I'm asking Steve Bannon, he's got a task force looking at this. I think this is the key to the whole case. I will tie it later to these Awan brothers that have been hired by Gulen and the hacking that's happening in Washington, D.C. But I do believe this is the answer to the case. So if Jeff Sessions wants to also, I think it's at USAG Sessions if you want to send it to him as well. Okay. So FOIA, I think I've talked in the past about the routes to go by the FBI through FOIA. They could go through one single judge, FISA judge, to get an order. If it got denied, then they can go to this court of review. I mentioned also the DOJ, I think, can go directly to the intelligence agencies, NSA and so forth, and get a wiretap as well without doing a FISA court order. But what I've said in the past is as soon as I see a sworn statement from Loretta Lynch saying I did not order any kind of tapping or hacking of the Trump Tower server in writing, and no one in the DOJ did, then I'll believe it. But as long as Steve Kadzik is still a part of the DOJ or was a part of the DOJ and Loretta Lynch was, I don't believe that. I've talked about this guy named Gulen before, and a little bit more background on Gulen. Gulen goes all the way back to Pakistan, when the United States was trying to take down in Afghanistan, trying to take down the Russians, and it was very successful. The CIA plan with the Mujahideen and Osama bin Laden to take down Russia worked. It lasted 10 years, and then the Soviet Union did fall. And my objection here is now taking those same techniques and then applying them to the rat lines for drugs and applying them to infiltrating the United States. He used schools. Fethullah Gulen basically used these schools or madrasas all over the world as CIA fronts. And they would have these English teachers. And the immediate way you know an English teacher isn't really just an English teacher is when they have diplomatic U.S. passports. That just isn't required to go teach English. And they were native speakers that supposedly taught English. Anyway, this is well known. And then Engdahl just wrote a book about it. This whole drug traffic line. So basically, he's the soft coup. He would go into these schools and then start radicalizing the youth and so forth. Now, his type of Islam is a little softer form. It's more of a Sufi form of Sunni, but that's so that he can infiltrate better. He's talked a lot about, we need to get into the arteries of the of the target, so that, and we can't call the revolution too soon before we've totally infiltrated. He compared it to an egg, that you don't want to hatch the egg until the chick is fully formed inside. So anyway, I've talked about different people who are promoters of him. This Awan here is Mozaffari Awan. He's a doctor who was in Cedar Rapids, where Spectrum Health is based. I've talked about this other Awan, who I believe was hacked. He's also in Cedar Rapids. So I think, if we want to, I believe that the emails, the hacking emails from the Trump server were going through his hacked email or his hacked email, one of the two. And a lot of times what Gulen will do is he'll take a lot of really good programs. This is what I talk about. During the day, the schools teach really good stuff, science and technology. It's at night when they do the recruitment. It's at night when they teach the hacking. It's at night when they teach the cyber weapons and so forth. And Gulen's been doing this literally since 1980. And if you look at his history, basically it was to establish this pipeline from the Caspian Sea all the way, and drug line all the way from Pakistan through Turkey. And I call it the five stands in the one John. There's Tajikistan, Pakistan, Kyrgyzstan, all those stands, Tajikistan, etc. And then the Azerbaijan is the John. So basically establishing the rat line all the way from Pakistan all the way through Turkey. And then once they were done with that, he then infiltrated Turkey. And then they had the falling out with Erdogan. So this is your man. He's the one funding the spy network that I'm about ready to talk about. Who was the CIA's man in Pakistan to do that drug route? That was Amjad Awan with BCCI. We all know about BCCI and Iran-Contra, Mark Rich, and so forth, and that association directly ties him to Hillary Clinton. This was Gulen's Midnight Express. This was the Midnight Express from the drugs from Pakistan all the way through Turkey. And I forget the CIA agent that set all this up. But anyway, this is Gulen's gang again. These basically were usually Pakistani ISI operatives. That's what set up the original Mujahideen to attack the Russians. I believe it's just been Pakistani ISI over and over and over again. And again, you look at which reps in the Congress set them up to get top secret information. And now that the Awans are outside of the firewall, they're outside of the organization, now they need the Vault 7 hacking tools. They're good hackers once they're on the network, but now they need the Vault 7 to get into the hacking tools. And of course, those came out yesterday. So if you're not familiar, Steve, with the Awan brothers, they work for these 31 different Democrats that Debbie Wasserman Schultz set them up with. After the SEAL raid, where the SEAL was killed and the Yemenis, Al-Qaeda knew we were coming, there was 20 burglaries, which I think were cover-up burglaries, Watergate sort of burglaries. The FBI is not on this case. It's just the Capitol Police. There's been no camera shots of these folks as they were entering or coming or going. Also, Schumer is going to be involved in this with Kislyak. Kislyak had all these White House visits for the uranium meetings, and he had many, many more meetings for the Iran deal. So that's going to come back. These Pakistanis were paid not just $4 million, but up to $5 million by all these reps. A lot of them have been named by watchdog groups as the most corrupt. So not only were these Awan brothers had available the information of their emails of the Democratic representatives like Andre Carson, they also had access to all the email and communications around the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Homeland Security, and Foreign Affairs. So a dream for anybody setting up an oil rat line and anyone who is trying to protect a drug rat line, who wanted to give warning to the people that are involved in the drug rat line of upcoming raids, so forth. Where it's taken a negative turn here is it's gone beyond just warning ISIS about drug strikes, drone strikes, and now it's moved to, sabotaging Trump's Navy SEAL operations. They put all the information on this server, this remote server, just like Huma had a server, just like Hillary had a server, they had a server. And I'm recommending that we look at those server logs, look at their logins. There's 4 of these Awan brothers, and then there's 2 wives involved in this. And then look at their phone records, see where their movements around Washington, D.C. As I mentioned, these 22 meetings at the White House where Kislyak was a go-between using this information. Here's these Awans were connected with this Al-Attar. He has ties to the Gulen terrorists. Gulen was selling information or doing the soft coup for both the Saudis and the Iranians. He's got ties in both, as well as Pakistan. Okay, so here are the three Awan brothers here. We still don't have pictures. Normally, in an FBI investigation, you would publish pictures. This is Abid Awan, Imran, and Jamal. They were all paid 2.5 to 3 times. That's another signature of FBI or CIA involvement, because they always want to pay themselves 2 or 3 times what they're worth. And then the 2 wives were also paid two times. Well, the one longtime employee wife was paid 2.5 times salary as well. I've said look for meetings in the oil business because they have the foreign affairs information, and I've said look at defense meeting industries, people coming into Washington meeting on defense because they had access to the intelligence information, House Intel information. On this, I've said that the 650,000 emails that were on Huma's server needed to be published, or at least the metadata, so that we can connect the dots between what are the Awans doing on their server and how does that connect to what Hillary was doing and what Huma was doing. But this is all one network. Muslim Brotherhood is Huma's network, and then the Gulens are running more the kind of the new Ottoman Empire network that the CIA has. But there's 2 different networks. Here's Andrew McCabe. He's in charge of all 3 of those investigations, Hillary, Huma server, and the Awan Brothers server. We think he should recuse and put someone in there, a special prosecutor or someone from the New York field office, and then also publish the metadata so that independent researchers can help with the investigation. So that's a good summary this morning, Steve, and let's see if Franklin will publish the raw data for the Trump Tower server.